Hello and welcome to another Kangaroo English Daily Digest podcast. My name is Christian and today is Friday. Definitely the best day of the week. Today there's a lot of things I want to talk about. A lot of evil, sinister, wicked, and terrible things that I want to talk about. Things that are just not right. And that actually brings us directly into today's word of the day, which is gosh. Now, if you come from a French-speaking country, which could be France, or it could be Canada, or it could even be some parts of West Africa, then maybe you're thinking, wait a second, I know that word gosh. You stole that from French. And yes, we did. We took the word directly from French, gauche, and it actually means left. But it means left in French, but in English, gauche has taken on this other meaning. Gauche means unsophisticated, clumsy, and awkward. So if somebody's gauche, you know, they're the kind of people who maybe sit on the sofa eating crisps and watching reality television, and you know the little flakes of the crisps are all over them and they're just sitting there like this big unsophisticated gauche lump. Or maybe it's a gauche person is a kind of person who tries to carry 2 drinks from the kitchen into the living room and they end up spilling half of the drinks on the way there. That's a gauche person, a clumsy person. And what's really interesting about it is how it tells us about, well, basically about the history of the world and also about how society can sometimes develop these strange superstitions. So to start the story, I want to talk about something that you've maybe heard, which is that people who are left-handed die younger than people who are right-handed. Basically, if you were born left-handed, it's like a death sentence. You can kiss goodbye to having a long and healthy life. You know, you're probably going to develop, what are some of the things I've seen? You're going to develop Alzheimer's, you're going to have dyslexia, you're going to, die younger, and even you might be more prone to having autism. But all of these things are myths. Okay, so we have to ask, where did it come from? Well, actually it came from 2 very important scientific publications. One of them was published in the scientific journal Nature. Now, Nature is a really important and well-respected scientific journal. And in 1989, they published this paper from these 2 researchers that showed that people who were left-handed died 9 years younger than people who were right-handed. Think about that for a minute. 9 years. That is a massive difference in lifespan. It's one epidemiologist put it, he said that it's the equivalent of smoking 150 cigarettes a day, or being massively obese, or abusing drugs or alcohol 9 years. Just because you're left-handed, how can this be? How can this be science in this scientific journal? Well, they were wrong. The data was wrong. They misinterpreted the data. But how is this possible? So what they did was they looked at the death records of all of the people in that year, and then they asked, were they left-handed or right-handed? And that's when they discovered that the life expectancy was incredibly different for left-handed versus right-handed people. So that makes sense, right? So the data is correct. But the problem is that these people weren't really right-handed. They said they were right-handed. They'd spent their whole life being right-handed, but they weren't. They were actually left-handed. They were masquerading as right-handed people. They were pretending to be right-handed. But why? Why? So part of the answer actually comes to us from Chinese. So if you look at the Chinese characters for left and right, then you'll see that the right-handed character is the character for a person and the mouth. So basically, right is about eating, and the left-handed character is about a person sitting at a desk and working. Now, it depends if you like your job or not, but we could say that maybe work has a kind of negative connotation, right? Eating is good, working is bad. Well, no, not really. But what's important is that the right hand is about eating. So obviously it's natural that because 90% of the people in the world are right-handed, that they eat with their right hand. And in cultures where people eat with no forks or other eating implements, you eat with your bare hand, that is an important thing. You're picking up rice or those beautiful, delicious breads that they have in the Indian subcontinent, like parathas and rotis. Oh man, so good. You're doing all this with your right hand, and that means that your left hand is reserved for unclean and dirty things, like, for example, washing yourself after you go to the bathroom, or when you do your daily ablutions. So in a huge part of the world's for a huge part of the world's population, the left hand is your dirty hand, your unclean hand, and your right hand is for eating and writing and shaking other people's hands, touching other people. And so this association has affected culture and language. So because of this, imagine if you were born left-handed. And so it's natural for you to want to eat with your left hand and write with your left hand and shake other people's hands with your left hand. But that's your dirty hand. That's disgusting and horrible. And so throughout history, left-handed people have been viewed with suspicion. They are evil, wicked, abnormal, unclean people. And so during the Victorian era, especially during the Victorian era, people in Western countries, they tried to train left-handed people to be right-handed. So they forced them to write with their right hand. They forced them to try and make their right hand their dominant hand for writing and all of the other activities, using tools of all types, playing sports, everything. And now, obviously, we know that that's wrong to try and train people out of their born and natural tendencies. We would never do that now, but we did for hundreds of years. And that's why when the researchers looked at the data and they asked who was left and right-handed, they had this huge bias because people were declaring themselves as right-handed when actually they were not. And that brings us on to the next part, which is about language and how this left-right thing has affected languages all over the world. So if we start, we can go all the way back to Latin, where we have dexter and sinister. Dexter and sinister. So dexter, which means right, gave us words like dexterous. He's a very dexterous person, which means that you're very capable and handy, and you're good at using tools. You're dexterous. The other one, left in Latin, was sinister. And we all know what that means. Sinister, evil. Sinister people. Again, the whole left and right. And then we can look at languages from all over the world. So we can look at Sanskrit, for example, where the word wama means left, and also it means wicked. In Polish, prawo means right, as well as lawful, legal. But Louis which means left, is the opposite. Louis means illegal. Crazy. In French, as we've seen, we have, droite and gauche, In Spanish, maladroit. In French, maladroit, right? Not right. Not right. So in Spanish you have diestro, which means right-handed and skillful, also in Italian. And in Italian you have sinistra, which means sinister and left. In Spanish, siniestro is like a type of accident. We can even go further afield. We can go to Vietnam. Right, which is phai, I think, phai, which means correct which means correct. And left, which is trai, means wrong. Right and wrong. Think about it. Amazing. We can even go north. We can go to Finland, where it's difficult to pronounce this. Oikea means right, okay, correct, and the opposite of left. The opposite of left. In Swedish, they say att göra något med vänsterhanden, which literally means to do something with your left hand. It means to do something badly. Even in Turkish, the word for right is sag, which means alive, and the word for left is sol, which means dead. And even phrases in English, we say, for example, that he dances like he's got two left feet. He's clumsy, like he's got two left feet. And in a lot of languages, you can get out of bed on the left-hand side, which means you're having a bad day. The left has even been associated with bad luck. And it just shows how these simple superstitions, they enter into culture and then they enter into language. And that's why it's so important to learn about culture when you're learning about language, so that you have this historical context and you understand when somebody goes to shake your hand and you offer them your left, why they might pull a strange face. And if you offer them your left hand and you wink at them, that could be a terrible, terrible combination. I'm Christian. I hope you enjoyed this daily digest. This is Kangaroo English, and I'll see you in class.